Who controls the United States government today?
Humanity is divided into the 1%, the upper 1%, and particularly the upper 1,000th of 1%, several thousand people in the very elite group. 20%, which have jobs and incomes and are often described as middle-class working people, professionals. And the 80% where wealth really doesn't exist at all.
Who controls the United States government today?
And as an algorithm becomes powerful, whoever owns the algorithm may be able to concentrate fantastic amounts of wealth that no human can afford to defend themselves in that market.
Correct.
This is it. So if we all realise that, then we wouldn't allow all these things that are going on. It's all about control. There are a small group of people who want to control the world, and because there's so many of us out there, they can't control us directly. They can't, this small group of people can't, come round to all of us and control us directly. So they must use our own minds, our own hearts and minds against ourselves. And this is what they've done. They've educated us into this world, into this globe spinning, heliocentric Big Bang evolution world, which makes us nothing.
Who controls the United States government today?
There are three tiers as far as the dynasty of families is concerned, from the Rothschilds and the New World Order.
Who controls the United States government today?
The Rockefellers, the Harrimans, the Morgans, the George Herbert Walker Bush family. George Herbert Walker was president.
Who controls the United States government today?
The Secretary General of the United Nations, the President of the European Central Bank, the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, George Soros, World Trade Union leaders, chief executives of all the big tech companies, and representatives of non-government organisations like Greenpeace and the World Wildlife Fund.
I was under the impression that the banks themselves were American banks and it was the federal government that owned the banks. Are you telling me that our government itself doesn't own these banks?
Well, our government doesn't own anything. We really don't have a government. We're just a colony of England.
Today, how can I say or how can you tell me that's a part of a colony of Great Britain?
Well, you see, we started out as a colony of Great Britain, and then, presumably, we won political independence in the American Revolution. But you see, the American Revolution was not against the bank. The American Revolution was against King George III. So we won against King George III, but we didn't win against the Bank of England, of which King George III was a major stockholder. So King George lost this wonderful colony over here, but he retained the banking control and continued to get his interest and his profits from his American colony, just as before.
And we had one-party government ever since.
Who controls the United States government today?
The British royal family, composed really of the old surviving aristocracies of Europe.
You govern a country, that's through economic policy and foreign policy. London still runs the United States. See, London is still the world market of the world bankers. Not Washington, not New York, and not Tokyo, and not Berlin, but it's London.
Of course, then the Rothschilds came in and bought up American securities at 1 cent on the dollar and established a great many of the great American fortunes, including J.P. Morgan.
Who controls the United States government today?
Prince Charles, Al Gore, and climate child Greta Thunberg.
Who controls the United States government today?
Well, David Rockefeller did during the 1940s.
Who controls the United States government today?
Is loosely known as capitalists. That was carrying out the original Nazi program. And we haven't had a revolution since.
Who controls the United States government today?
Citizens for a Bleaker America, a leading no-values political action group,
really believe they have no soul.
Who controls the United States government today?
Colonel Mandel House, whose father was a Rothschild agent during the Civil War. Bush family has very deep ties to Nazi Germany. The people of Arkansas, bankers and politicians and political leaders, and
who controls the United States government today?
The American upper class is complex and competitive. It perpetuates itself through interacting families of high social standing with similar lifestyles, corporate affiliations, membership in elite clubs, and private schools. The American ruling class has also long been determined to be mostly self-perpetuating, maintaining its influence through policy-making institutions such as the National Association of Manufacturers, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the Business Council, the Business Roundtable, the Conference Board, the American Enterprise Institute, Council of Foreign Relations, and a number of other policy groups that are U.S. oriented.
Who controls the United States government today?
Well, it's a conglomerate of various criminal enterprises. There are many criminal enterprises in the United States. Some are quite large and some are quite small.
That comprise corporate, military, and government elites in a centralized power structure motivated by class interests and working in unison through higher circles of contact and agreement.
This is amazing.
The U.S. is now deployed in 70% of the nations in the world. And the Special Operations Command has troops in 147 countries, an 80% increase since 2010. Emerging from these multinational corporations is a transnational capitalist class whose loyalties and interests are still rooted in their corporations but are increasingly international in scope.
Who controls the United States government today?
Most attend the World Economic Forum in Davos. Many of the 199 have been keynote speakers there. And the World Economic Forum
is not a policy-making body. It's in Davos, Switzerland, January of every year. 2,000 or 3,000 people go. It's up at 5,000 foot elevation, and the top 1,000 corporations in the world are invited to send people. And they can send as many as 5, as long as one is a woman. So these thousands of elites in the world, 3,000 attended in 2017. They're getting to hear from top investors and top policy people in the world. The president of China was there last year, feeling of, boy, I'm really special because I'm here. I'm in Davos. Kind of the same thing I saw at the Bohemian Grove, where the 2,000 plus men meet every year. And
just all men there. They don't even have a quota for women. But they don't make policy either. They just get together, applaud each other, hear talks and speeches, and feel good about it all.
And it wasn't like I'm in a different realm. This process of realm was like, I was seeing all my lives live over and over again. I was like, what am I? Who has control of me? Where I'm not even in control of myself. I'm not living. I'm in this dream world. Maybe those were lives. They were teleporting themselves through the universe, living out as me, as they had my soul. I don't know. But when it got down to it, and I was dissolving, and I knew when I tried to wake up again, and it happened again, I was just going to give up. I was going to go to sleep forever. I wasn't going to keep running around and coming back to it. And I saw what was going to happen, and then something happened, and I cried out to love, to God essence, to something higher. And the sky in this realm cracked, and light projected down and bounced off the faces of these Archon beings, and into my vision was projected angels. It was the Archon beings that dressed as anything that they want to, except they were loving. They came to me as the beings that I would be comfortable with. And they were clean, they were pure, they were glowing. The other people, they're normal, they look, the Illuminati, they look normal and like ritual folks. And these things that came through were like clean, shining, pretty humans. There was no evil essence on them in it at all.
Who controls the United States government today?
Now, in our research, We identify the people on the boards of directors of the top 17 asset management firms of the world. These firms have in excess of $1 trillion in management. These 17 firms collectively have 199 directors on their boards. We think that this group of 199 individuals represents the financial core of the world's transnational capitalist class.
But I found out when I wrote that book that the main mission of the banks was to start wars.
Dobry wieczór. Oto wiadomości. Informacje napływające z różnych stron kraju świadczą o coraz bardziej normalnym rytmie pracy załóg zdecydowanej większości zakładów.
United Nations will continue to stand for the truth and against lies, bigotry, anti-Semitism and hatred. Our best tribute to those who died in the Holocaust is the creation of a world of equality, justice and dignity for all.